This is the start of the day, making some of the venison sausage from the other day that hadn't been processed yet. And I'm going to use a Royo low-carb bagel to make a bagel sandwiches, and it will be so good.
I'm not really camera ready, getting ready for work, but making some breakfast sandwiches before I go to work. So good morning, welcome to Pike Creek Farm, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to be going to work, but doing a few things before I go, like dishes and making breakfast.
I think I should have made them thinner. I'm going to put them between parchment paper or wax paper and roll them out to make some more. Cook an egg. One done. I wrap them in foil. Definitely a hearty sandwich. We got this box of citrus at work and we are sharing it. So good. I'm going to use the Keystone beef and make the Philly sandwich tonight. It calls for a loaf of French bread, and you cut, but not all the way through. Now in this pan, I'm going to melt a 1/4 cup of butter, and we're going to add garlic. So I'm going to put this on to melt. And then in this pan, I'm going to put some olive oil. And I'm cutting up an onion, and I already have some red pepper. I'll heat this up. Now you're going to put them in the pan with a little bit of olive oil in it, and I just sauteed them until they were tender and the onions were translucent. I'm going to warm up the beef now, the Keystone beef. Well, I'm going to open it up first, and I'm going to drain off the broth that comes from the meat cooking when it's canned. Take off the lid carefully and then drain out the juice into a bowl or some other container. And you can use it to make gravy. I mean, you can use it to put on dog food if you want. But it's really good to save because it has a lot of flavor. The recipe calls for you to mix the beef in with the onions and peppers. I'm going to separate it. Jim isn't always a big fan of onions. They can bother him. And these seem strong. I like them. The onions and peppers are just about where I want them. The onions have taken on the color of the peppers. And I'm going to set them in a bowl so that I can add them to the sandwiches that I want it added to. And then we will put the beef into the pan and heat the beef up and add some seasonings to it. Now I slop some on the stove. So what I like to add is some seasoning salt, and I added some garlic, pepper, and a splash of Worcestershire. Now I'm just spreading open the cuts on the bread so that I can fill them with the peppers and onions, the meat, and then put cheese on top. The first step is to make sure you have it so it's an even number of sandwiches, like 2 slices of bread for each sandwich. And now I'm going to do the outside of each sandwich with some garlic butter. The loaf did break. I am finding it a little challenging, and I might do it different next time, but here I am just putting the garlic butter on the sides that I want to have it on. If I was going to do this again, I would just get sub buns and wrap them up. So now I am putting the meat into the sandwiches, like every other slot basically. I've already put peppers and onions in the ones that I want to have, and it's hard to get it all the way down, like so the sandwich won't be top heavy. So I ended up cutting them into the sandwich sizes and filling them flat. So I'm just rearranging them so they're flat sandwiches, and I will end up putting foil over the entire cookie sheet of them. So I'm just using up the last of the peppers and onions. And another option would be to cut the bread in half and build the sandwich and put the top on and then cut it after it's baked. And that would work out really well too, using the French bread. So now I'm going to cover it with foil. I'm going to use 2 pieces of foil and put it in the oven on 350 until they're all nice and melted. And then I will take the foil off for the last few minutes so they get toasty on the outside. So this is when I take them out and take the foil off, how they looked. And I made gravy and some beef in it with the leftover. And here they are finished. The cheese is melty. I realized I probably should have put the garlic butter side inside and not on the outside, but I didn't. But they're good. And I used, this is a little jar of marinara. When I used to go to Pennsylvania, I liked the sauce on mine. So I had difficulty with the bread, and I would use like the little sub buns maybe next time, but this is really nice and crunchy. So I will be doing the other recipes that I put out there too, but this was the one that won, so I wanted to share it with you. And I'm gonna go eat and enjoy my Friday night and try and clean up, because I found out I have to I knew I was babysitting for the kids tomorrow, but it's a lot longer and overnight than what we had thought. So I need to get my energy up. Thank you for watching day 13 of Vlogmas at Pike Creek Farm, and we'll see you back here. I'll try and get something for tomorrow.